Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will present an introduction to Tosfos Dibur HaMaschil Kodim Sheyavel de Isur Skila. Let's begin. So that we have 5 pieces of background information for this Tosfos. The first one is Oral, Hazah, and Izamel. These are 3 cases where the Rabbanan left in place their Isur, even though it causes that the person cannot bring a Korban Pesach, which has an Isur Kares involved. Let's go through each one of these items. Arul basically refers to a person who ceases to be an Arul, which is a Gerish in his Gayer. Once he becomes a Ger, he stops being in the state of Arul, he gets the Bris Milah. And the din is that Rabbanan instituted that such an individual needs to have Azah on the 3rd and 7th day after after the Gers. And until he has that Azah, he's not permitted to partake in Kachim. Now what happens if Erev Pesach falls within this time of 3 to 7 days? Do we say that since Menatera there's no need for the Hazah, we therefore tell him to bring the Korban Pesach and avoid the Isser Kares, or do we leave in place the Isser Rabbanan? The din is we leave in place the Isser Rabbanan, even though it leads that the person can't bring the Korban Pesach. The second thing is Hazah. The din is that the Rabbanan established that on Shabbos Hazah is not permitted to be done. It's a Shavuos. So what happens if a person needs Hazah to be done on Erev Pesach and it falls out on Shabbos? He's not allowed to do Hazah. Did the Rabbanan permit him to do the Hazah so that the Tumah could come to an end, and he's not permitted to bring the Korban Pesach, or did the Rabbanan leave in place their Isser to do Hazah, and now the individual remains in a state of Tumah and cannot bring the Korban Pesach? The din is the Rabbanan leave in place their Isser to do Hazah, even though it leads that the person can't bring the Korban Pesach. The third item is Izamel. Izamel is the knife that's used for Bris Milah. The din is that if the Izamel, the knife, is in a different Chatzar, the Rabbanan, the person cannot bring it from one Chatzar to another Chatzar if it's on Shabbos. So if it comes out that Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, and an individual has a child or a slave that needs a bris, and he doesn't have a knife available, however there is one in the nearby courtyard, the adjacent courtyard, the adjacent chutzner, the din is that the Rabbanan leave in place there is so that he cannot carry it over, even though as a consequence he's now not permitted to bring the Korban Pesach, since the din is that if a person is obligated to do a bris milah on a child or slave and he hasn't done it, he's not allowed to bring the Korban Pesach. And Tosfos brings this down to bring out that in these cases the individual, it's no fault of his own whatsoever, so it's clear that although he didn't bring the Korban Pesach, which is tied to an Isser Kares, he obviously is not liable for the Isser Kares since it's no fault of his own, it's rather done by the Rabbanan. Tosfos brings this to show that it's possible to say, we find a precedent that when the Rabbanan withhold somebody from doing something, the Isser that should naturally result will not be applied. The second item that we're going to present over here is Hasra Safek. Hasra Safek basically is that when a person does an Avera, one of the conditions that's needed in order for the person to receive a punishment is that he has to be warned. It needs to be Hasra. Hasra Safek means that it's a doubt that even though he's now doing the Isser, it's a Safek whether the Isser is really an Isser. What does that mean? What that means is, let's take an example of an individual who stole. So somebody receives a Hasra by 2 Eidim, it's Asr to steal. It's a Safek whether this Isser will come to completion, so to speak, because it's always possible for him to undo the Isser, because it's a lav hanitik la'aseh. It's a lav that's attached to an aseh. The lav can be undone by fulfilling the aseh. The lois aseh can be undone by fulfilling the aseh. If he returns the money, he undoes the avera, and therefore that's considered a sra safek. The next item in Tosfos is teich kedei dibur. Teich kedei dibur, it's attached to a sra. Teich kedei dibur is basically the amount of time it takes to say Shalom Alecha Rabbi, and if that amount of time did not pass, then the 2 things on either side are considered connected. In regards to Asra, it basically means that after receiving Asra, a person needs to do the Aver that he was warned on within Teich Kedei Dibur, within the amount of time it takes to say Shalom Alecha Rabbi, in order to say that the Asra is connected to the Aver that was done afterwards. And if that amount of time passed, it's necessary to give the individual a new Hasra. The next item is the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan. So Shiluach HaKan is the mitzvah that we mentioned before, Asra Safek, of a lav hanitik la'aseh. Shiluach HaKan is another example of that. There's a loisas and Shiluach HaKan, and that is that a person is not allowed to take the mother from her children or take the mother together with their children. Rather, what he needs to do is send off the mother and he can take the children. So it's also to take the mother bird together with the children bird, or the mother bird away from the children bird. Rather, the person is allowed to take the children and he has to first send away the mother. Now, this is a lav hanitik la'aseh, because the loisas is loy sikach ha'im alabanim. The asay is shalach to shalach ha'im. So similar to stealing, the person is able to undo the lav. So if he did take he did take the mother with the children or alone, he's able to undo it by bringing the mother back and sending her off. So it's a lav hanitik l'aseh. And the last and final item is bitlei v'loy bitlei. So what that basically is, that's one opinion holds that the deciding factor of being able to receive malchus in the case of a lava nitik lasei is only the question is bitlei v'lei bitlei. Was he mevatel the ability to do the mitzvah sasei, or was he not mevatel the ability to do the mitzvah sasei? So let's take an example where he wasn't, and an example where he was. He wasn't mevatel the ability is if he took the mother away from her children, he's not yet mevatel the ability. He could bring back the mother and send her off. The only way to be mevatel the ability is that before taking the mother from the children, he broke the mother's wings. So now, when he's going to take away the mother, he can be given hasra. You're not permitted to do it. And if he doesn't listen, there's no asay left for him anymore to undo it, since if he brings back the mother, he can't send her off. She's unable to fly. So according to this opinion, what we look at is bitlei v'lei bitlei. If he was mevatel the ability to undo the avera, then he can be warned when it comes time to do the avera that it's usr, and he won't be able to avoid the punishment with having a lava nitik lasei, since there's no asay available for him anymore. The alternative opinion says that the defining factor is kimei v'lei kimei. Did he fulfill the asay or not? So in other words, according to this opinion, if an individual took the mother away from her children, he'll be brought to Bezdin and told, you have to bring back the mother and send her off. If he doesn't listen, he'll receive malchus for doing the lois asa. Whereas according to the first opinion, they can never give him malchus because he could always bring her back. Now, just one point that Tosfos brings out, and there's a lot of discussion on this in the Gemara that focuses on this topic. But as far as we're concerned, for our Tosfos, one point that Tosfos brings out is that if the individual took the mother and was warned that it's usr, that warning is not a good warning because it always bring her back. Then if he later breaks the wings and and he's given a warning to not break the wings, it's not a good warning because there's no issur to break the wings. The lav was not to take away the mother. When he was warned on that, the warning wasn't complete, since he could always bring her back. Then afterwards, when he's warned not to break the wings, there is no issur to break the wings, and therefore that's not considered a warning either, and there won't be any malchus. And with that, we have the 5 items in place, so we could learn the Tosfos.